9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, folks, good evening and welcome to Blue Heart 1872 podcast. This evening, folks, we are joined by one of the biggest legends to play for Glasgow Rangers, and the Pompey fans won't like me for saying I better give them a mention as well. And also at AC Milan, QPR, and of course England International. Mark Hateley, folks, will be joining us soon. He gave me heart failure because he's only clicked on there now 2 minutes ago, and I thought he'd stood us up. He'll be joined also by Alistair Aird. Obviously, Alistair's written Mark's new upcoming book was coming out called Hitting the Mark. I'm sure you've all seen it on the social media. We put out that Mark's book, and Mark will be coming on soon to talk about his career and the book. And also, he'll probably give us some information on places where you can go to get the book, meet Mark, have it signed, and all the good stuff. Folks, 2 weeks' time tonight, we'll be joined by 9-year-old captain Richard Gough, who will also be joining the podcast. So that we've got to look forward to. And hopefully very soon, folks, we're going to have Alex McLeish on as well. I'm just waiting on a date for that. Get your questions coming in, folks. Obviously, this podcast is about Mark Hateley, his career and his book. I know there's a lot of people already asking about his thoughts on the manager position, but listen, just keep it to Mark at the minute. And if I hit my magic button, Mark and Alistair should appear. There they go. Good evening, guys.
How you doing? All right.
Hi, guys.
Mark, how are we, Mark? You give me heart failure.
Yeah, not bad.
You give me heart failure. You're running late.
Oh, well, it was a Grand Prix on and doing bits and bobs. I had a car out to pick up and polish it off before joining you tonight. So I'm well full. Good day on the Grand Prix circuit for me with Lewis winning. So yeah, happy man, happy boy.
Oh, you like that Formula One, Mark?
Yeah. Big into the family we have. Yeah.
If I want a good sleep, I put it on. You know? Okay, so obviously we'll talk about your career, Mark, and the upcoming book. Alistair, if we start with you first, just how did you get into the books? And I know you've written. We've had you on before with Davy Robertson, another ex-Ranger.
It's just something I'd picked up in my spare time. I mean, I'm a keen student of the club and in particular Rangers, obviously, but also a student of the game, sort of 60s, 70s, which is a wee bit before my time, and then 80s and 90s when I started to kind of follow football a bit more religiously, if you like. So I used to enjoy just sort of putting wee mini biographies together. I did some stuff for a photography website called Sporting Heroes. And it then spawned other opportunities, and fortunately, I've been lucky that the publishers have taken on what I've done. I think Rangers in the 80s was probably the one that kind of launched things for me. I'd done a biography of Acosta back in sort of 2008, and then sort of taking a wee bit of time out from it. But the 80s book kind of put me kind of back in the frame, if you like, and then that spawned the David Wilson autobiography, and then obviously you mentioned David Robertson there. And through David, obviously David put me in touch with Mark. Mark made a contribution to David's book, and the well-worn phrase that I'm using now is he marked my card during that conversation. Because he was keen to bring out something. So things moved from there. Pretty much when David's had gone to print, Mark and I started preliminary discussions, and we've kind of moved from there to where we are now, which is 11 days out from publication. We're hoping to get something in terms of sort of or advanced copies sort of early doors next week. So the final product, I mean, obviously we've only seen it typeset electronically at the moment. We've seen the jacket, we've seen the photo section, and it looks pretty impressive. So still nothing quite like getting it popping through the door day one. So looking forward to that. But it's been another fantastic project because obviously similar to David, fairly au fait with the Rangers stuff. So it was just a matter of getting some stuff round about that. But when you then start looking at Coventry and Portsmouth and Milan and Monaco, and you mentioned QPR, there was a short loan spell at Leeds, and it's a fascinating story, and I think we've hopefully built something together that does that fantastic career justice.
Yeah, okay. And Mark, obviously this is the second book, am I correct?
Third book. I did the last 3 months. I think the last 6 months first 6 months of Portsmouth going to Milan, sort of a diary type book. I did a book back in 94. I don't know. Alistair will keep me straight on here with, I think it was at The Lion Roars On.
The Lion Roars On was the video.
The video back. Yeah. I had that in VHS.
Top Mark was the second one, I think, sort of 93, 94, if memory serves me right. And the one that Mark was speaking about, the diary one, that was called Home and Away. So third and final book anyway, Gareth.
Right. So it's a final book. So is there going to be a bit of scandal in this book?
Well, I've not missed anything. Let's put it that way. You know me, Gary.
Well done. I know you. I know you.
It covers all the bases, this one, Gary. I think it's safe to say.
Good.
I mean, I picked up a copy of Home and Away as part of the research, and obviously I'd read Mark's previous one, and this more than fills any gaps that might have been in those two books, and sort of builds on things both on and off the park. So no stone unturned, I think, would be perfect to describe where we're at with us.
So obviously the questions are starting to really load in here, loads and loads of questions. So we'll put this to bed straight away now, and then we don't want to know more about it. Mark, your feelings on Steven Gerrard and leaving the club?
Let's be fair, Gary. I think nothing ever does surprise me in football.
Yeah.
I just cast myself back to 1991 when Graham Souness leaves with 5 games to go. Yeah. So it's not unique that a manager leaves you I'm going to not say in the lurch, because we are in a good position right now. We're top of the table, semi-final of the cup, still in Europe. But it's, I think, big boots to fill. So it's one of those. It's ambition, and I think that's what it always has been about for Stephen. His ambition has always been to be the best, the very best, always challenging himself, always moving the goalposts, if you want to mean that. That's why he is where he is. He's always ahead of the game, sort of stuff, and his standards are very, very high. I don't know the ins and the outs of it, but the fact that we've gone through a period of COVID, 23.5 million loss last year, and his ambitions will be to qualify. Obviously, would have been to qualify for the Champions League, but not just to qualify, to be competitive. Because that's what Stephen is. It's not just to get there and they get turned over 4-5-0 every game sort of stuff. And probably because of that huge deficit on the books from last year to now, probably that money is not available. So his ambitions right now were outweighing that of the board. So it's no fault of theirs. It's definitely no fault of Stephen, because that's who he is. And a job came along. It looks like a pretty decent one. Fifth richest club in the English Premier League, with a program. I would imagine over the next 2 or 3 seasons. I think Stephen, listen, the salary is neither here nor there for Stephen, I would have thought. I think it's just the ambition of a club matching his, and Aston Villa probably is where it is right now. It is in a stage of just turn off again. Lost two big influential a player in Grealish and a homegrown manager. So the identity of Aston Villa now is put in the hands of Steven Gerrard, and I'm quite certain that he will handle that. Big disappointment for me as a Rangers supporter, though, and I think it'll be a big loss all around the club, not only on the playing side of it, but also commercially. As you know, a brand within the brand, and that'll probably be another knock-on effect. So, but I wish Stephen all the very best. He was out of the rooms. He did what he did, had to do. Ticked that box winning the league, and apart from the disappointment of not winning any cups, I think he's done pretty well. But
Yeah. Okay. Mark, your Wi-Fi's Brett. You still there? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you're still there. Okay, Mark. That's it. All right, folks. No more about. Obviously, don't want no more questions with Steven Gerrard. This podcast, obviously, about Mark and his career. Mark, and also, obviously, we touch on. Obviously, a few weeks ago, we lost your old boss, Walter Smith, an absolute legend of a man. Yeah. Thoughts about Walter, Mark, and what it was like to work under him?
He's a brilliant guy, brilliant family. He's one of the best people that you could probably meet. To sit down and have a chat with, a brilliant listener. I know I had a party at my house after an old game on New Year's Eve, many early 90s, and all the players had gone, all had drifted away, and me and him sat in my house in Mulgai, and we sat there from about 2:30 in the morning till 5:30, just talking about football. Just me and him sat there around a fire, having a glass of wine. That's the sort of guy he was. He listened to everything that you had to say. And really intelligent on that side of it. Knew how to handle big egos, which the dressing room when I played was full of egos. And just let us get on with it. As long as it never ended up on the front page, he was happy.
Yeah. Okay, right. Okay, so what I've done tonight is obviously we do a podcast every Friday night, and we've got regular people that be on this podcast with me. So they're going to come on and ask you one question, Mark, and then they'll disappear. So I'm going to bring on first from Aberdeen. It's hopefully it should be come on. It's Wolf Marshall. Good evening, Wolf.
Hi Gary, evening Mark, Alistair.
How you doing, Ralph? You all right?
Yeah, no
Okay,
bad.
so a question from
Mark. Right,
Go ahead, Wolf.
first,
Question from
right, first of all, Alistair, you realise I'm going to have to reread this now before reading your new one.
You're fine. The new one sort of covers all that and then some, so we're fine. You don't need to go back to it.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'll just put that one back on the bookshelf then. Good, right, okay. Right, Mark, the question I had for you is a bit of a two-parter. What do you consider to be the best goal you scored for Rangers? And also, what do you think was the most important goal you scored for us?
Well, it's probably the same, all in one. 1990-91 season, the Aberdeen game, last game of the season. It was a real hard season for me. I probably underestimated how long it would take me to be back up and running at full tilt. I've been come off, injury-strewn couple of years at Monaco. But I eventually got up and running. It was, I was battling with a certain section of the fans, but battling with myself more than anything to be who I was before the injuries. The demands I put on myself that season were, they were heavy. So we put ourselves under a bit of pressure. Last game of the season, we needed to win. Aberdeen needed to draw, as you knew. And then Alex McLeish on the day made me look like Pele, so I was really appreciative by Alex. He always, every time I see him, I give him a big hug sort of stuff, and still really, really good friends. But yeah, that was really important because that cemented me within the rank and file of the supporters. And I think once you do that, and I've been very, very fortunate, I think, pretty early in all my clubs, games, I've done something pretty special, which immediately gets you on board, as I say. That really did, as I say, cement me well within the ranks and files, as I say, of all the support at Rangers. Proved to myself, and really couldn't wait to get back up and running. I think that season, it was a big 5 game as well, just come into the to the big seat, possibly if that game had gone the wrong way for us, that could have been Walter, on a very short sort of career at Rangers. But as I say, all the planets aligned for us that day. As I say, we were rightly crowned champions that year for number 3.
Yeah, I think, sorry, before I go, Gary, I think that more important than either of your goals that day was your early challenge on the goalkeeper. I think that set the tone. I think that set the tone for it.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, I never ever looked at the team sheet ever in my whole career, because I have always been a guy who has the first 15 minutes of every game in my head what I want to do. It doesn't matter who I'm going to be playing against. I know it sounds arrogant, but to me, it was always, it's all about me imposing on whoever I was going to play. And I looked over in the tunnel, and I actually thought it was a mascot. He was that young. So I had a look over to him, and couldn't believe. I thought, "Oh, happy days! Here we go." So I tapped Gary Stevens onto the shoulder, and I said, "Gary," I said, "hang one up. Just do what you normally do. Hang one up with snow on it, so I can get the goalkeeper to come off his line and opening him up, and I'll see what this lot's all about very early in the game." So, sure as eggs are eggs, Gary lumped one in. And the young boy come out, and listen, he emptied himself way, stretching, and I just buried my elbow right into the soft part underneath here, and knocked every piece of wind out of it. It could actually, when it hit the floor, I felt sorry for him, but it was for a reaction. It was a reaction I was looking from Alex and Brian Irwin, the two centre halves, what they were going to do, when I did that to them. And the response was nothing. Nobody come up to me to mess me around. I think they not even went over to the goalkeeper. And from that minute, I thought, right, this is ours today. We were up for the fight, and they weren't, sort of stuff. To be fair, they could have been a couple of goals up. Had a great chance early on, but that was not to be. And if you cast your mind back to the second goal I scored on that day, which was a poor effort from Maurice Johnson and a fumble from the goalkeeper, you still saw me coming out the corner of the eye. I was still not booked, and he was still getting it, even if he collected it. All right? So, and that's it was a simple fumble and a simple right foot tap into the back of the net, and the game was ours. I must admit, after and say about Walter, because me and Walter lived on the same street. He came knocking on the door nearly every day for about 5-6 days to go for half a shandy. It was really good.
Brilliant. Okay.
Brilliant.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Well,
perfect.
Thanks, Will.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Gary.
Will.
Cheers, Will.
See you, Alistair. Cheers, guys.
Right. Okay, so obviously at the start in the career, Mark, you start out at Coventry. Is this where the book starts, Alistair?
Well, we actually start further back than that. Mark was keen. Obviously, the Hateley heritage, as we've labelled it. With Dad playing sort of 50s, 60s, and in Mark's career, and obviously Tom as well. So we actually start with a bit of a kind of synopsis of Mark's dad, Tony. And his career, and a bit of background about Mark's early years as well, growing up in Derby, and sort of moving around with his dad, going to Liverpool and going to Chelsea and all this kind of stuff. So we start there, and then that leads in quite nicely to the role that Tony played in getting Mark the gig, if you like, at Coventry, because there was a trial at Nottingham Forest, and a certain Brian Clough letting Mark know that in no uncertain terms he was never going to make it as a footballer. And on the back of that, his dad makes a phone call, and Mark ends up at Coventry, and things moved from there. Struck up an excellent partnership with a chap called Tom English and the youth team at Coventry, and pretty quickly went from the youth team to the reserve team. And then in the last game of 78-79, makes his professional debut for Coventry against Wolves, up against Emlyn Hughes, if memory serves me correctly. And it went from there. But sometimes these autobiographies, the temptation is to start in the present day, or to start sort of halfway through the subject's career. But this one fitted nicely, particularly because we were keen to get that Hateley thread right the way through it, in terms of Tony and Mark and then Tom at the end of it. So, the start at Coventry was interesting.
Yeah, and then obviously after Coventry, Mark, it's to Portsmouth, am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, and we're streaming live, obviously, at Portsmouth Facebook page tonight. We've quite a big audience, so we thank them for joining us. Now, obviously, Portsmouth, I know you are talking about coming down to Portsmouth to do a bit of... Mark's going to come down to Pompey and to bring the book and do a signing session. Are we any further forward than that for the people at Portsmouth?
With the marketing manager at the publisher, she's been conversing with people at Portsmouth, so we're trying to line stuff up. Ideally, we would like to get something in the diary before Christmas, but we need to see how things run in terms of games between now and then. But certainly keen to get down to Coventry as well. And although Mark was only at Portsmouth for a year, hopefully the listeners that are on from Portsmouth will recognise the contribution that Mark made, albeit a very much a transitional season for Pompey. But I think that kind of laid the foundations for what was eventually Pompey making the first division, which was in those days obviously equivalent to the Premiership.
Well, obviously, you know, I live down here, and obviously, but I'm up the other end of M27. I'm in Southampton, but Mark's obviously regarded for somebody who played one season for a club. You know, the big man's a legend, absolute legend amongst Pompey fans. You know, I was doing a wee bit of thing today, checking up some facts, and I watched the video, and Al Knight was on there, and a lot of ex-Pompey ones were all on saying about with Mark Dunn, you know, how good he was for Portsmouth.
We've got some good contributions in there. I spoke to Alan Knight, you mentioned him there, 801 games, something ridiculous like that for Pompey. Spoke to Alan Bailey and spoke to Kevin Dillon as well. So they've got contributions in there. They've given their reflections on their time with Mark, in addition to us focusing on Mark's memories and reflections his time at Fratton Park.
Yeah, and then obviously, there's in that thing today, Mark. Am I correct, Mark, in saying it was after the goal for England in the Maracana that you moved to AC Milan? That was the one.
Yeah, that happened. That just came literally out of the blue. Obviously, it was a period of about, I'm going to say, you take the season from Portsmouth, and you take in last month of that season.
Yeah.
So let's put it over an 8-week period. So I'm playing for a second division club. I've just scored a winning goal in an under-21 European Championship final against Spain. I've just been made the golden player of that tournament. Previous year was Rudy Voller, so I'm following in good footsteps. As I say, I think 23, 24 goals, I think, in 32 or 33 games for Portsmouth in that season. Absolutely loved it. Fantastic supporters. Just my cup of tea. The place was there. And then you get that call. You get that call off the back of an under-21 final. I think we're still the last under-21 team to win that tournament. So that went a long way, from the youth to the under-21s, always on the radar there for the international. For a second division player, then to break into an England side, and the Reading side at the time, was an unthinkable thing, an unthinkable thought. But the fact that I'd done that, and then I got the phone call from management for that triangular tournament against, I think it was it Russia and Colombia, and I can't remember, Chile, maybe the other team, at Wembley, and I got 5 minutes and a 5-minute sort of stuff. So I thought, that's great. I've got my full England cap. I always wanted to do that. Always wanted to be better than my dad. My dad never played for England, so I'd achieved that really before I could, before my wildest imagination would have me down playing for England at that period. So I booked a holiday, and then literally, I'm going to say 2 weeks before the trip out to South America, which was, don't forget, it was Mexico was a year after for the World Cup, so it was like a trial trip. You just saw the situation, the playing, the atmosphere, and all that sort of stuff. We went out there. I thought, I'd be pushing the skips around, handing the kits out, looking at what happens with the top players on these sort of trips, because I'd never been on an international trip, obviously. And right place at the right time. Bobby Robson comes to me the eve of the game, puts his arm around me and just said, our centre forward's injured for tomorrow night. And he said, you'll be playing. And it was as simple as that, just like that. So I get to get my full cap, start against Brazil in the Maracana. And as I say, nobody ever remembers my goal. Everybody remembers John Barnes' goal. So, it was a real strange set of circumstances as well with me and Barnesy, because we were both born on the 7th of November, both same birthdays. Both scored. He assisted me. I assisted him for the goal, and then our careers just went like that sort of stuff. So it was a launch pad for both of us. But mine was, stratospheric in what was to happen now over the next, I'm going to say, 10 days. AC Milan contacted Ray Wilkins, who had signed for Milan at the Easter from Manchester United, and he knocked on the door. I'd finally sobered up from the result, and I just said, AC Milan want to sign you. So I'm sort of just lying on the bed, sort of stuff, thinking, well, young and naive, well, I've still got 2 years left at Portsmouth, so I don't think Portsmouth will want me to go right now. They got bigger plans as well.
Yeah.
And he went, and then he came back a couple of days later, and he said, "Well, the deal's been done," and I hadn't heard anything. He said the deal had been done between Portsmouth and Milan, and I was literally going to be flown home, I think, the next day or two to do my own personal terms sort of stuff. So that's how fast it happened. I think Milan paid 1.5 million. Is that right, Alistair, for me?
I think it was just short of $1 million, but there or thereabouts.
Yeah. So
a lot of money back then.
Huge.
Yeah. Good investment, though. Good investment. So we went back. I went back. Sat with my agent Saturday in a house, and we rattled out all the personal terms, and the rest is history, as I say. That's where I wanted to go. That's where I wanted to be, that European striker. And it was a absolutely couldn't have written a better script from there on.
Brilliant.
Phenomenal, Gary. If you think that very much a club on the rise at that time, Portsmouth, but probably not on a lot of people's radar. Yeah, Bobby Robson. They were obviously on Bobby Robson's radar because Bobby was had obviously taken account of Mark's performances for the under-21s, but he was the first Pompey player since Jimmy Dickinson back in the 50s to be capped for England.
Right.
So you're looking at what the best part of 25, 30 years that nobody for Pompey's been anywhere near the full England team. And to then be in that position where I think as much as the goal in the Maracana clinched the move to Milan, I don't think Milan would have only signed Mark on the basis of that one goal. So clearly what Mark had done in that single season, probably dovetailing with what he'd done at the tail end of his career at Coventry, sealed the move. But £1 million move from what at that time was the second division in England, so now equivalent to the Championship, to the top end of Serie A. It's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily expect to happen these days.
I think in that year as well, that season, I banged in 4 against France in that competition.
I was in the semi-final.
Semi-final up in Newcastle. That's where Bobby's hometown is, and all that sort of stuff. You look at, I think, not only what you're doing domestically, but on that international scene at that level, at under 21 levels, that carries a lot of clout, I think, with teams from, the European situation. It's unique to be playing against a French side that were a top side there, and you're banging 4 goals in. It was a lovely wet and windy night they were putting Newcastle.
Just actually going back through, the French game was the quarterfinals, and it was actually Italy over 2 legs in the semis, and then I think Spain in the final. So arguably that semi-final against Italy in that tournament itself has been huge. As Mark said, he was the golden player. Rudy Voller previous to that had gone, I think, to Roma off the back of being the golden player in the 1982 tournament. So huge opportunity in the shop window. But I would imagine still quite a surprise at the time that somebody goes for Portsmouth to AC Milan.
Yeah, and obviously, so we're still waiting on obviously Pompey coming back to you, but obviously bringing Mark down and Mark going to Fratton Park. But I do know, for any Pompey fans listening now, that I know Baffin Rovers are going to have an evening with Mark. And I was at AFC Portchester yesterday, and the chairman there would very much like Mark to be there as well over that weekend, doing a book signing session and maybe a bit of a Q&A and stuff. So you will be coming down and be going about signing books down around this area. So obviously Mark's in Milan. So Alistair, have we got any comment? Who have we got commenting from Milan? Anybody speak for the book?
Just Maldini.
Don't say Maldini. Well, that's only Maldini.
Only Maldini. Brilliant, surreal. It's I'd obviously done the sort of testimonials, if you like, from teammates, etc., for the previous 2 books. I thought I'd do the same again. And Mark just drops me a WhatsApp message with Paolo Maldini's contact details.
Oh man, what? Name dropping.
So Paolo was great. 15, 20 minutes, not an issue in the phone. And since then, we're obviously looking to do stuff out in Milan as well, and we're looking at Italian translations and that kind of stuff. And Paolo's put me in touch with people out there and been really supportive of the project and been really helpful. But yeah, he was a young 16-year-old when Mark was out there, and my understanding is that Mark and Ray and Paolo shared a car into training. Paolo was keen to learn English, and I think Ray's Italian was a wee bit better than Mark's. So I think it was a kind of quid pro quo arrangement. But to get the opportunity to speak to somebody like Paolo Maldini to get his reflections on Mark's time out there was very.
We don't want to give too much away about the book because they've got to buy the book,
100%, yeah.
But obviously, we will talk. Obviously, the goal against Inter, obviously, it's going to be in the book. Yeah,
yeah.
The header.
Iconic, yeah.
So when God bless him, when Ray Wilkins when he was with us, done a Q&A down at Portsmouth, and we were there, and he's talking about the goal, but he also talked about a day after. I think it was a day after. Mark and him was in a shoe shop in Milan, and word had went round that Mark Hateley was in the shop after that goal, and basically they just had to close the shop down. Mark was getting mobbed.
They actually closed the street down.
Legend there.
Listen, obviously it's in there. So in terms of the ins and outs of it and what happened off the back of that goal, both on and off the park for Mark, is covered in a detail in the book. But the significance of that goal isn't lost now. I mean, we're talking 1984, but the Curva Sud regularly unfurl a banner, which is Mark towering above Colavati. So it's a huge goal in Milan's history, and obviously during Mark's 3 years there, it wasn't the sort of silver-laden success that Milan enjoyed sort of towards the end of the 80s and the early 90s, but the significance of that goal in Milan's history isn't lost on anybody of a black and red persuasion out there. It's a huge, huge moment in their history.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring on another guest, and I'm going to tell you, he's coming on from Brisbane in Australia. A good Rangers man. So he's going to join us now, and it's John McKinnon. Good morning, John. How are we?
I'm good, thanks. Morning, Mark.
Hi, John.
How are you doing, John?
I'm good, mate. Mark, thanks for everything, all the enjoyment you gave me at Ibrox, and it's good to see you still at the club. The question I've got for you, Wolf sort of touched on the question I was going to put to you, so I'll redo it. And I just want to know, which player would you have loved to have played alongside with at Ibrox? Obviously, one that you didn't play with alongside. So
I think. I'm going to say who I didn't play with. Really, I don't know how to answer that because I had the ideal partner in McCoist that I played with. Yeah. I don't think you would have got a finer partnership with any club or at any level. Over a period that we played together. I was fortunate. I played with Lineker, I played with Paolo Rossi, Ramon Diaz, all these players, George Weah, but none so perfect for me like McCoist. Alistair was probably, as a footballer, not as gifted as all of the aforementioned there. But as a goal scorer, he was up there, and just made my job really, really easy because I knew exactly what he wanted to do. He knew my strengths and weaknesses. It's like anything within any business. If you've got a partnership like that, it's always going to be a winning formula. I couldn't have picked a better player to play with at Rangers, and the way we played. And especially his iconic stature at the club. I'd like to think I helped him along the way with a couple of added goals to his tally. I think that was Mr. Souness's frustration with Alistair when I joined the club. He thought he was underachieving. And I think probably after I'm going to say a short period, a week or 10 days of watching him in training, I couldn't understand why he wasn't scoring 30, 40 goals every season, I think that was the frustration that Graham had as well. and that was the problem. And it probably bore onto me because I was always going to play, and Maurice Johnson was in, so I got a certain section, obviously, of the thing, just the East enclosure that they thought I was keeping him out of the team. So he was very, very shrewd, Alistair. Got himself, I think, a lot sharper and a lot fitter in the period where he was watching what was happening, and watch he did, because he's an intelligent guy and he was learning while even watching. As soon as he got as soon as he got back into the team, you say the rest is history. He went boom. He was 39, 38, 40s, 2 European golden boots, and but I always say the best season I ever had was when he had his broken leg.
Obviously, we get the opportunity, typical of Alistair, very late in the day to speak to him for the book. So we obviously get his contribution, but I was keen to kind of hold off for that because, largely because of that iconic partnership. I mean, we sort of done a wee bit of kind of numbers on it in terms of those 2 seasons, 91, 92, 92, 93, and it's a frightening amount of goals that Mark and Alistair scored together. And in terms of the win ratio, when Mark and Alistair were in the team, and Mark and or Alistair scored, scary in terms of the numbers. And what price you would put on a partnership like that these days is you're into sort of hundreds of millions and whatever for both individuals. But just for that period of time until Alistair broke his leg, sort of April 93, unstoppable. And I think Mark actually said to me, you couldn't get a bet on ahead of any Rangers game because it was either going to be Mark and Ali, or Mark or Ali that would score over those 2 seasons. So
brilliant. So obviously John's out in Brisbane, Australia. We've got a massive Rangers connection out in Australia, as you know. Are we able to get the books sent out to Australia?
Of course we can. Yeah, of course we can.
Where will that be done, Alistair, then? Or
we're going to try and set. We've got another meeting with the publisher early next week, so we'll try and get off the back of stuff that we've done over the last week or so. We'll get things in place, whether it be through social media, either through Mark's social media, my own social media, both, or alternatively directly from the publisher. We'll be looking at getting it out there. We've kind of gathered pace, if you like, over the last couple of weeks in terms of publicity and marketing. But just because you're out there, John, you'll not have to rely on somebody sending one out to you. I'm sure we'll be able to sort a wee bit of a few copies to get sent over in that direction.
See if we can get a trip sorted out, Alistair.
100%. We'll maybe have Christmas on the beach in Australia. You never know.
We can see the both of you over here.
Great to talk to you, John. Magic.
All right, guys. All right, John. Thanks very much, John.
Thanks mate.
John.
Cheers, mate.
Okay, Alistair, then we move on quickly. Obviously, we've done the Milan bit, and then it's Monaco.
Yes.
Am I correct? Yeah.
Indeed. Yep.
Who have we got words from in the Monaco? I'll drop a big name in there.
I'll drop Glenn Hoddle in to begin with.
It's only Glenn Hoddle, isn't it?
And but then after that, we managed to get contact details for Arsene Wenger's agent, and Arsene Wenger had another 15-20 minutes with me on the phone, so we've got a wee contribution for Arsene as well, which was fantastic. He took again time out his very, very busy schedule, and again for me it's a reflection on the regard that Mark was held in when he was at Monaco, and even today, that these people are taking time to speak to, dare I say it, somebody that they don't necessarily know and are not au fait familiar with. But and say again, you've got Glenn Hoddle, who I think when he went to Monaco hadn't really played as a 10, and he became a 10 at Monaco, and his career blossomed, albeit very, very. I think he was 29 Mark when he went to Monaco, so it was a bit later for him. But Glenn sort of developed as a player when he played alongside Mark at Monaco, and obviously Arsene Wenger was in the very, very early days of his management career. Then, in fact, I think he had a spell at a club just before he went to Monaco, and it hadn't been particularly successful yet. First season that Mark comes in, they win the title. Mark's up at the top end of the goal scorers with the likes of Jean-Pierre Papin, and it went from there. Unfortunately, it was curtailed a wee bit by a couple of serious ankle injuries, which we obviously get into a bit of detail in terms of the actual sustaining of the injuries and the sort of journey back, the road back from those injuries back to the team.
The dark side of an injury, Gary.
100%, yeah. And some of the stuff in there is quite enlightening. Certainly from my own perspective as a humble punter, to actually get the insight to just how difficult it is when you take that away from someone who's used to the daily into training, going through that sort of routine, if you like. When that's taken away and it's rehab and it's as Mark says, it's the dark side of those particular
operations, 4 rehabs, lots of stuff in between.
Yes.
So, if you were to add that up, Mark, how long were you out of the game for with that?
Well, I'm going to say about just in my brain, it seemed like a couple of years. It was probably about. Alistair has got all the data.
It's probably the best part of 2 years. The first injury was March '89. So from then, I think it was through to about sort of October. Then Mark come back in and then sustained another ankle injury, ironically, in the other ankle. So both ankles went. And I think that was around about February 1990. So not long before he came to Rangers. So I think within that spell, there was maybe only about 10 games that Mark played within that 2 year period. So huge gap. And again, it's something Mark alluded to earlier, that it wasn't the best of starts coming into Rangers. But hopefully when people pick this up and read it, and they get a realisation what Mark actually went through these injuries, and probably arrived at Rangers a few months after the second one, not 100% fit, not necessarily match fit and ready. You know, it's like at a club at Rangers. You got to hit the ground running, and obviously Mark comes in, and the perception is he's taking Alistair's place in the team, and Alistair's the darling of the Rangers supporters. So huge challenge. But the background to that, the backstory to it is that Mark had spent the best part of 2 years out of football, and the expectation is he's £1 million player. He's going to come in here, he's going to score goals straight away.
And then obviously,
I was going to say, Gary, thank God I scored on my debut. Just think if I hadn't scored on my debut.
Right, so obviously then it's Monaco, and then it's a move with the biggest of the lot, and that's to Rangers. Obviously, Graham Souness, Mark, brought you in. Before Souness made contact, Mark, did you realise how big Rangers were?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, growing up, I supported Chelsea because that's the first team I can remember watching my dad play at properly at Chelsea, and then Nottingham Forest in the Midlands. Because I supported Nottingham Forest in the Midlands because my dad was playing for Notts County just to piss him off, basically. And I supported Rangers up in Scotland. So I had 3 teams right the way dotted through the United Kingdom. Obviously Derek Johnson, his connection to Chelsea and all that sort of stuff. And listen, me and Graham, we played against each other a lot when I was in the UK, and also when we were in Italy. And I think we, and to this day, still really good friends. I would like to think, and when we were in Italy, we would get together, try and get the families together with Liam Brady's family and Ray's family, to do that, that family thing. But he came for me at the end of the first year at Milan, after all the hurrah of the Milan derby winners and all that sort of stuff, and how well I was doing. But I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I knew I wanted to be that European player, and I was still not ready to be coming back to the UK. And then he tried to get me as I was leaving Milan to join Monaco. And for me, it still wasn't the right time for me to be coming back. I still needed to sample another culture, another way of playing the game, in the French system. And then it was just by sheer accident, really. In 1990, he was staying, I think, with members of the board in the Hotel de Paris in Monaco, and he was staying in there, and he was travelling into Italy to watch the World Cup there. I just bumped into him one day, just walking through Casino Square with my kids. bumped into him, said, "Oh, big man, how you doing? Boom, boom, boom. You must come and have a coffee and a chat with us and all that sort of stuff." I said, "Oh, yeah." So I did do, sat down, and any more thoughts on, where you saw your future lie? I said, "Well, really, Graham," I said, "I'm in the middle of, trying to get back to where I was." He said, "Oh, I'm quite aware. I know where you are and what's happened to you." I said, Monaco literally had given me a brand new contract at the time of the injury, so I still had another 3 years to go, another 3 seasons after 1990 to go. Wenger had just brought in George Weah, a young George Weah, to play up front with me. And he saw that being the future of the football club. I explained all this to him. He said, "Well, go away and have a think about it." And I did do. I spoke to the family, and I went to speak to Arsene Wenger, and he understood the predicament. And he said, "Listen," he said, "I want the best for you, whether it's staying here." He said, "I have no doubt that you'll be better, fitter, faster, stronger because of your mentality prior to your injury. That's why I gave you a new contract." And he said, "But if you feel that you need to change your environment, to change the look or whatever you want to do, then it's fine by me." So I went away again, slept on it, and just made that decision to, it was the right time. It was the right time. Get my kids back into mainstream schooling, good level, high standard in Scotland as well, and coming back to play for a manager who is a winner, an out-and-out winner. That's what clinched it for me.
Yeah. Obviously, Alistair, Graham has wrote a bit for the book, yeah?
Graham's done the foreword, which was, again, fantastic, just to get Graham's insight on Mark. As Mark said, he's obviously played against Graham when Mark was at Coventry and Graham was at Liverpool, and then again with the Milan-Sampdoria connection. So Graham's obviously kind of put his own thoughts in. So I'm just picking up, there's obviously some coming for the Battle of Britain game. Obviously that's another iconic goal from Mark's career, the BFG, as you can read about in terms of the goal at Ellen.
We're not going to talk about it because you have to buy the book to read the story, don't you?
100%. 100%. Listen, guys, I'm going to have to wrap things up for mine now, okay?
All right, Alistair.
If you keep an eye on the respective social medias, we're hoping to kind of ink things in with the publisher this week in terms of events, be it signing events or whatever. I think we're going to start off in Glasgow, and then we'll sort of get our journey going from there. But if you keep an eye on that, see, we'll get a meeting with the publisher early doors next week to sort of get things inked in, and we'll go for there. But there's certainly going to be opportunities to come and meet Mark, and you mentioned Gary, sort of Q&As and stuff like that. But certainly come along and get the opportunity for Mark to sign the book. But hopefully people.
What's the actual date of the book? What date's the book out, actually?
It's the 25th of November. The day
it's the 25th, right, okay.
The Sparta Prague game. So we're on track for that at the moment. So
1 month before Christmas.
Exactly.
Timing. He never misses a chance, does he?
His timing in the air was impeccable, and his even timing. So, all right.
As Mr. Wenger would say, Mr. Wenger would say, timing is everything.
Absolutely. Spot on. All right, guys.
Alistair, all right. All right, Alistair. Bye. So obviously, Mark, Alistair's gone. One question.
That's what happens when you've got. That's what happens when you've got a 2-year-old, Gary.
Yeah, that's it. So with some big names in the book, Mark, we're chatting Souness, Wenger, Maldini, Hoddle, McCoist. It doesn't get much better than that. Yeah.
A lot of great.
And can I ask Mark, it's a touchy, but did we manage to get something from Walter before he passed?
We did indeed. I spoke to Walter literally the day before he went into hospital. And he said, I can't do it right now. I'm going into hospital, but as soon as I get out, I'll do it for you. No problem whatsoever. And to his word, he literally, he's done a fantastic piece for the book.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, we'll leave it at that. And obviously, Mark, another question. We've got Stuart Finlay coming on. He said he's
Hello, Stuart. He was just pouring in there, Stuart.
Yeah, just we dropped a Russian water.
Oh, lovely.
Right. Okay.
Evening, Gary. Evening, Mark.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure listening to the pod tonight. Some of the stories coming out have been brilliant. One of the questions that I'd like to ask is, I remember my dad and my granddad, because they lived in Corby at the time. Obviously, your dad played with Nottingham and all that. What was the best piece of advice that your dad ever gave you football-wise? And what would you actually pass on that advice to any youngsters coming through now?
Listen, dads pass on all sorts of information, but for the footballing world, be honest. Always be honest with yourself and be honest with everybody around you in the footballing world. He said, as a player, always ask, when somebody asks you to do this and do that, just ask why, always ask that question. I want you to do this, and you just say why. And then it makes that question a lot easier to answer if you're a sportsman. Do you know what I mean? I say that to all kids. If coach asks you, can you do this and do that? You say why? Can you explain to me? But I think the honesty is the one from my dad. He said, be honest with yourself and be honest with everybody around you. There's no good pulling punches in this game. You have to be brutally honest sometimes, which might get you in trouble. But he says you'll be able to put your head down at night and sleep.
Yeah, brilliant answer. Can I possibly ask one more?
Yeah,
go on. You go.
I remember being at a Q&A with you down at the Lee Rigby game, and you talked about when you went to AC Milan and how it actually totally improved your game. Can you just talk me through how that move actually improved your game?
That move, I got to work with an absolute gem of a guy in Niels Lidholm, ex-centre forward, Swedish, 58 World Cup final, the Pele Cup final. He actually scored in that game, and he was my coach. He was my manager, should I say? He was so Swedish, so laid back, and literally had time for me. He knew what I could bring to the game, and he also knew what I could add to my game. We used after training, we'd just, come on, and we'd walk around the pitch for half an hour, and he would ask me what I wanted from my life, how my family were, how was this and that. A real good guy, a real nice guy. And on the back of that, I had one-to-one of learning to play the game of football. We had Fabio Capello, who was doing the Primavera, which is the youth team. He would come with Niels, and he'd set up a load of cones, and we'd have one goalkeeper, a couple of balls, and nothing. It was just we would walk through things and explain to me, why, because British centre forwards used to cover all sorts of ground. Go and tackle fullbacks and go and tackle this player, and where invariably you see a European striker do all of his work within the width of the penalty box, doesn't bother going into the outside areas, and he stopped me doing that straight away. And I said, why? I said, why are you stopping me do what I enjoy doing? He said, because it has a detrimental effect on the team. And I'm trying to work this out, sort of stuff. So he explains to me. So we walk through it again. Fabio's involved in it as again, and he's just saying, for instance, he said, if you go and tackle the right back, right, their right back, that means that our left-sided midfield player, who we want to engage higher up the park, won't go and do that. And in return, that means that the left fullback won't engage high up the park. So we can't play a high pressing game.
Brilliant.
Just a simple thing like that. So I'm going to do a job by tackling, saving him coming up, but it's all to the detriment of the team. So stay in your area, let him come up and engage that player, and let your Paolo or Icardi or Ivani, who was playing at left back at the time, let them come up so we can play a high pressing game, which is the modern game that we see tonight. Today, sorry.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And do you know who came on the back of me? A young Marco Simeone. He was 12 years old. And him and Fabio just did corners and penalties and free kicks with him for half an hour. He was 12.
Yeah. Unbelievable. 12-year-old.
Absolutely fantastic.
That's how you learn to play football.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to reading the book. So thanks so much for your time tonight, Mark.
Yes.
All right, Stuart.
Yeah. Cheers, Gary.
See you later on, mate. Right. Bye-bye. Mark, we'll run through some questions that are coming on the screen now, and then because obviously we're on an hour here. So here's a good one here. So Gary Patton, Mark, how do you feel after going so far into the Champions League to get robbed by Marseille?
Yeah, Lee, it's always left a bad taste for a lot of the players on that journey. As I said to Walter when the draw came out after we'd beaten Leeds, I said we can go all the way to the final here. We pretty much unbeatable at home, and we'll win more away games than we'll lose because we were built that way.
Yeah,
we could defend, and we could go to the park, and myself or Alistair or both of us would score a goal.
Yeah,
we had creative players in the middle of the park. We had speed, we had width. A great goalkeeper, great defenders. It was a disappointment. I mean, going through the whole competition without being defeated until you get a referee that sends me off after 25 minutes at Ibrox for nothing. This is all in the book. This story is in the book.
Right.
That is a bitter thing for me because it would have been a great final for me as well against Milan, against old friends and what have you. So, real disappointment. That was the first inaugural Champions League as we see it today, group stages, and that would have been great to be able to say within that period that we were there, that we could have won that without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Okay. Mark, another one coming in. Best atmosphere you've experienced, Mark? Leeds at Ibrox, question mark?
Leeds at Ibrox. I'm going to say Aberdeen, probably. Aberdeen game, the last 1991 season. That was absolutely bouncing. The place was full literally two hours before the game. Yeah. And it was absolutely bouncing. I'm going to say the Leeds game, probably the same sort of stuff, but not to that sort of intensity. Marseille game as well. The first leg, the 2-2 draw. But I'm going to say for loud atmosphere. I used to get kicks from the other way. 57 minutes. See, 57 minutes at Parkhead. Scoring in 57, and you're scoring into that end. Yeah, where it's deathly. That gave me a bigger buzz than
Love it.
Anything.
Love it.
That's what you call like that. Dropping the mic.
Yeah. Okay. We better put one up here for William Reynolds. Hi, Mark. Could you please wish me a happy birthday for tomorrow, and also thanks for the great memories as a young boy going to Ibrox.
Well, I could do, but you could have wished me a happy birthday, William, for last Sunday.
Yeah, aye. My big man was 60 last. That's right. Right. Okay.
I was 60 indeed. Happy birthday, William. Anyway.
Yeah, and would you believe it? Chris Woods is 62 today.
Yeah, he looks old, doesn't he?
Okay, put this one up from Graham McCallum. We wouldn't go back to it, but he's asking, I know Graham well, does Giovanni get your vote, Mark?
I don't know Giovanni personally, obviously, I know of his career and what he's done. He's already won a domestic title. I just want a guy that wants a 100% to win for the football club. Nothing else will do. It's win, 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 and has high ambitions of taking the club to where Stephen said we need to be, Champions League. And hopefully, expanding on that Champions League, as long as he has that mentality, I'm fine. Rino Gattuso, those sort of stuff. Frank Lampard's, the names that are being mentioned for the job now is where we should be. We are a massive club. We are an institution, and those sort of managers, those sort of names should be automatically linked with Glasgow Rangers Football Club.
Okay, so Don Owens obviously is a Pompey fan because he's the crest up. Mark Hateley, the greatest header of the ball ever. There you are, Mark. Mm-hmm. So if Don needs to buy your book, doesn't he?
He does indeed. That was all taught to me by the best. That was my dad. Absolutely.
Right. Question from Kathleen Camworth. Who had the biggest ego in the changing room? I think that's Ibrox.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, listen, everybody in that dressing room, goalkeeper, Goffey, McCoist, Durant, all those sort of guys, myself, that's what drives you, that belief. You haven't got that belief or that ego and ability to go with that confidence, the arrogance, the everything that goes to that cocky player. Is needed at a club like Rangers. You need to be edgy, but you have to have an understanding of everybody around you. And I think we had that. We had a lot of intelligent footballers with that edge and with that ego that all wanted the same result every week, come what may, and that's I'm going to say 1 to 11 on any team sheet that Graham picked or Walter picked was a player. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, so here's a good one. Here's from David Lee. Obviously, this will be in the book. I reckon Mark, and it's personally, I think Mark should have got more England caps in the 90s. Does Mark agree? Yeah.
Do you probably.
But
probably.
Mark, do you think the England caps were withheld from you because you were playing in Scotland?
I'm probably going to say so. Yeah. Bobby, just before the 1990, he was in touch with me all the time because he wanted me for 1990 to be fit to play for the Italian World Cup. And I was not right to play. And I said to him, he was in contact with me all the time. And I just said, Bobby, I'm super strong, super fit, but nowhere near match ready.
Yeah.
So I was being honest with myself, honest with Bobby. And but I had no doubt in my mind, whatever happened, I was going to be back and at my best than I was before. And I must admit, I was very, very surprised after, I'm going to say, getting into 91, 92 season, and it was flat out. And I was playing the best football. I was the strongest I'd ever been. I was going to say the most powerful I was ever at any one time. And I was very, very surprised, actually, that scoring goals, creating goals, all around, and in Europe as well. That I didn't get a call. But to tell you the truth, when I did get the call from Graham Taylor, I knew it was going to be, because of the pressure of the press that the call up was for. I didn't see eye to eye with him. That material, this is all in the book. Kept calling me Tony, which is not on. And my dad never played for England, so that's being disrespectful to me. And I knew basically, so I let him have it in a training session. So I played on the night. I created a goal for Paul Merson, his first goal for England, and a 1-1. I think a 1-1 draw against Czechoslovakia away from home. But I knew I was never going to get back in. And I think further down the line, I think he was screaming out for a centre forward to help him out. Yeah. But I was long over the disappointment of not playing, because I was so enjoying my career at Rangers, and everything that was going on around that. It was brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we'll take a few more, and then that'll be it. Evening, Mark. When Coisty got injured, you stepped up and dragged us to 6 in a row. Did the arrival of Duncan Ferguson fire you up to another level, or was that your peak year? You were on fire 93, 94?
Not really. I think Duncan, for me, came. Well, I knew Duncan was coming. Walter told me, and he said, "I want you to take him under your wing, and I want you to sort of educate him on that road." He would play some games, but he wouldn't be playing all the games. That's pick and choose between myself, keep me for the important games, for the European games, probably giving me a rest on the weekend before that. But Duncan wanted to be the main man straight away. He wanted to play all the time, and rightly so as a young player. But that was not the case when he was coming to Glasgow Rangers. He was the big fish in a small pond at Dundee United. So he expected to be coming to Rangers and playing, but that was never going to be the way. I think the fact was when Alistair broke his leg, that resorted to me of playing that European 9, which I'd learned to play in my 6 years on the continent, and really enjoyed it. As I say, it was about my best season, and that's where we were looking for runners and 10s to play off that number 9, and we had a lot of those. Stuart McCall, I'm going to say Ian Durrant. I can't think about anything. I said Ian Durrant. Yeah. We had all those sort of players that could run and support and run beyond sort of stuff. Gordon Jury was another one as well. But it allowed me to play, with 2 wider men, and Liz gave me carte blanche to do and run wherever I wanted to run, and it was up to people then to play around me.
Yeah. I think your internet's gone there, Mark.
Is it?
You're okay. You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. You're back. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So Don Owen says, "I'll go ahead, Mark. Sorry, I cut you off. Sorry. Go ahead."
No. I just said that it was a good season for me, because I didn't have to think about where to run. I could just run where I wanted to, and it was down to players to get round me, just so I could play how I did in Europe, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So Don Owens says, Hateley Bailey partnership with Pompey, superb. Fulham 2-0 won beginning of season. He remembers it, one of his first away games. Do you remember the game, Mark? No.
Yeah, I do indeed. There was a terrific atmosphere. We had a great, obviously, travelling support as well. And I got off the mark pretty quickly. Header at the far post, straightforward header at the far post, headed down. And that got me up and running, and it's as I say, you need to be scoring when you go to a new club, especially as a striker, especially when you've got fervent supporters, as Pompey, the Pompey boys are, unbelievable atmosphere. Every time you played, and they used to drive you on, and I'd like to think I used to drive them on as well, with just how I played the game of football. It was it was a real privilege to be able to say I played down there for the 1 year, and the fact that I've left that sort of impression and that image just in one season. I feel very proud of that.
Yeah. Okay. So Stephen Maguire Jr. says, Mark, who was the hardest player you played against?
Claudio Gentile, probably. Yeah. He was pretty solid. Juventus centre half, just boot you all over the place, even when the ball wasn't there. You know. But I like to think I gave him as good as I got, sort of stuff. I was never intimidated as a young player. I would always, get fired in. He was actually a nice guy. He would always shake your hand after the game and what have you. But for the 90 minutes that you played, you were in a physical battle with him if he could get close to you. You need to move him around a little bit more than the European striker. So the British striker in me would be able to cope with that, with the energy that I had, sort of stuff. But he was brutal. Yeah.
Okay. We'll take a few more, folks. Then we could sit here all night, but we haven't got time. So I love this name on YouTube. Curry Muncher says. Curry Muncher. Because Gary, can you ask Mark? They say once a Ranger, always a Ranger. Can Mark put his finger on what it is that keeps former players so close to the club after leaving?
I personally, for me, I think it's because it's a winners club. And I think some of the players, the great players that have been there, have all been winners. So I think one marries off with the other. It's the perfect match, the perfect demands. The demand of that player that he puts on himself, and the demand of the football club that it puts on itself, and the two of them coming together with the demands of the supporters. That is it. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger, basically, because it's then within your blood, without a shadow. It's under your skin, Obviously, things change and things go different ways at certain times, but essentially, the mentality of Rangers Football Club is literally do or die. We're always going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so second last. So Don Owen says, I'm sure you banged 2-1 for Pompey against Arsenal in a pre-season.
I did.
Showing up Charlie Nicholas on his debut.
I did, absolutely. Charlie who?
Charlie Nicholas.
I did. I think we played Tottenham that weekend in that period as well.
Yeah. Okay. And there you are, Mag McDonald, definitely on my Christmas wish list. Good luck with the book, Alistair and Mark.
Thank you, Maggie. It will be a good read.
Let's see. We'll take one more. Let's see if we get something here. Okay. There's so many questions, but a lot of them are repeating themselves. There's so many. They've just got to buy the book, Mark, haven't they?
Listen, it is a different sort of book, purely because of the lineage, basically, from my dad in the 50s. I mean, the Hateley story. We have had a Hateley playing in every decade since the 50s, right up to modern game.
Yeah, because Tom's playing all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's a good read from being a kid, from following your dad around as a 60s player, 60s, the swinging 60s and all that sort of stuff. Trying to get yourself out of the shadow of a big shadow. So it's got all that in it. It's not just I went and played this game, I went and played that game. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of dark stuff in it as well. There's also a lot of stuff of me finishing my career and the stuff I was doing at Rangers and all that sort of stuff, and and how that all ended.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah. We have to buy the book to read it. Obviously, Brian Miller's just come on to say, Mr. Hateley, thank you so much. You are great.
I would agree with that.
Alexander King says, happy birthday. Enjoying using your free bus pass, Mark.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that one.
Don Owens, Pompey fan, says, I'll be buying it for sure. Obviously, Don, if you're obviously running around Portsmouth, Mark will be down, so you will be come and meet Mark and get it signed.
Yeah.
So there's not a bad one here. Good evening, Mark. Did you ever fancy a crack at being a Rangers manager?
Not really. I had a nice little go at it at Hull City under with David Lloyd, probably the wrong person I could have gone to work for, actually. As a chairman. That's a good chapter in the book, actually. No, I think my days of being a manager now, do I want to be standing on a pitch in a wet, cold, freezing, as you know what the weather's like up here? I think that those days are long gone. I'd rather sit behind a camera or watch a TV game and just pull my thoughts out to the people that want to listen to me.
Yeah. Obviously, folks, if your question hasn't been put up, there's so many questions to go through. You just got to buy the book, folks. But one question that I'm going to put up, because I know the guy personally, and I was at the game, and it's from Robbie Logan, and I remember this happening. He says, "Hi Gary, ask Mark, does he remember a Legends game against Institute in Londonderry when their centre half, Mark Sculcock, was kicking lumps out of him all evening, and then he had enough and grabbed him by the throat and gave him a shaking?"
I did. Yeah,
I remember this game because it was terrible weather. It was rained.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I said, "Come on, this is it's a fun game."
Yeah.
That's why
I remember
we're
the game. The people were, because I never forget going to the pub after thinking, we paid to see players like Hateley and Walters and all. We've got Institute players playing as if it was a league game. They were playing like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we're all like 50 years old.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, folks, if you're on the Facebook page, please like and share. And if you're on Twitter, retweet. Also, folks, Mark is on Instagram at Mark Hateley 10 and Twitter, Mark Hateley 10. Still trying to get him verified to prove that it's definitely him. Richard Goff's got his blue tick already. I don't know how he's managed that. But Mark, thank you so much for coming on. And we can look forward to the book and getting you down this neck of the woods and do some.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to coming down for the game.
The Lee Rigby game. Yeah,
in May. Yeah, looking forward to getting down to see the guys again, the supporters. Yeah, and having a smashing weekend.
Yeah. Okay, Mark. Thanks very much. Mark, if you stay on, Mark, I'll come back to you then. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Okay, folks, so that's it. I have to say, by the viewing figures, I'm just looking at my phone, probably one of the biggest podcasts we've done with numbers so far. So many questions, folks. I'm sorry that if I can't get your question out. Obviously, the best thing to do is buy the book and obviously get Mark to sign it. If it's in Glasgow or down here in the south or wherever. Folks, 2 weeks today, it's 9-year-old Captain Richard Goff. Richard will be on, so delighted to have Richard Goff on. Thanks for all watching, folks, and I hope you enjoyed it. But when we come off this, please like and share the podcast and give it a retweet on Twitter. Okay, folks. Good night, folks. Thank you.